Hey there again, welcome back. It's been a while. I'm sorry for not uploading too much, but I'll do my best today. I put on some nice fireplace noises in the background, crackling, all that. Hopefully it's enjoyable. Okay. Today we'll be going over SCP-6078, also known as Peekaboo Island. Okay. Object Class, Getter. I will begin now. Special containment procedures. During manifestation events, all passenger vessels traveling within 50 kilometers of SCP-6078 are to be redirected. All satellite imagery taken between the hours of 0 and 11:59 GMT during manifestation events is to be edited, with all images of SCP-6078 removed. Any suspected civilian sightings of SCP-6078 are to be intercepted by Mobile Task Force Omega-58, the Flying Dutchman, with Class A amnestics administered to all witnesses. Any anomalous items discovered on SCP-6078 are to be transported to Site 234's Containment Wing. Information and technology may only be exchanged with 6078 inhabitants with Overseer approval. Consumption of 6078-A by Foundation personnel is strictly prohibited. By Overseer request, no further attempts at removing 6078-B from place of burial are to take place. Description: SCP-6078 is an island with an area of 850 kilometers squared, located on the Porcupine Bank, roughly 300 kilometers off the west coast of Ireland. SCP-6078 has been depicted on maps dating as far back as the 10th century, where it has been variously identified by names such as Brazil, and High Brazil. Archaeological evidence suggests that SCP-6078 was first colonized by Gaelic settlers at some point during the first millennium BCE, with the island currently populated by approximately 60,000 non-anomalous humans. SCP-6078 typically occupies a Category 7 pocket dimension, only transitioning to baseline reality for a 24-hour period between 01 and 23:59 GMT once every 4 years, on the Gregorian calendar date of February 29th, hereafter referred to as a manifestation event. Between manifestation events, 6078 is surrounded by a thick mist, and the area occupied by the island is instead immersed underwater. Additionally, travel to and from SCP-68 during this state is impossible through non-anomalous means. Any vessel which travels further than 25 kilometers from the island will vanish and rematerialize in an adjacent point on the island shore. Despite its extra-dimensional status, SCP-6078 is affected by local meteorological and seasonal patterns. Although 6078 receives a severely decreased amount of sunlight, native plant and animal life have not been found to experience any adverse effects. 6078-A denotes an anomalous species of flowering plant, colloquially known as blood blossoms, which blooms solely during manifestation events. While highly poisonous to outsiders, SCP-6078-A produces a mild euphoric effect when ingested by the island's native inhabitants, and is believed to possess certain medicinal properties. The inhabitants of 6078 speak a previously unknown Goidelic language, structurally similar to Old Irish, and the island has been politically unified under an absolute monarchy for at least 1400 years, the incumbent ruler being King Finn the 12th. Despite numerous attempts at Christianization between the 6th and 9th centuries, the inhabitants of 6078 continue to practice a distinct form of Celtic polytheism to this day. Due to isolation, 6078 has experienced a little social or technological progression beyond a roughly Iron Age level of development. Since its discovery, however, the Foundation and the Global Occult Coalition have been steadily introducing its inhabitants to modern medicine and the scientific method, and provided limited information regarding the state of the wider world. Local historical records suggest that 6078's anomalous properties first manifested at some point in the early 12th century, on a date colloquially known as the Day of the Ravens. This is consistent with the fact that the island has been portrayed on far fewer maps since 1500 CE, and with less accuracy regarding its precise size and location. The inhabitants of 6078 celebrate the date of each manifestation event as Endearment's Day, a holiday named in honor of a former king. This date is typically marked by the island's inhabitants with music, dancing, feasting, and consumption of 6078-A. as you might remember, that is the hallucinogenic food, berry, something like that. Addendum 1. The following is an account of the life and reign of King Endearment, provided by the Foundation's Department of Mythology and Folkloristics. All details herein are derived from native SCP-6028 scholars as well as local religious and historical texts. This is going to take up the majority of the rest of the video. I hope you enjoy it. Endearment the Ageless. The mythical King Endearment is identified as the final king of Brazil. Prior to the day of the Ravens, sources consistently described Endearment as a fair and just king who was born on a leap day, and as a result, aged only 1 year for every 4, later earning him the moniker of Endearment the Ageless. Endearment is said to have had 7 wives, each of whom he had married 7 years apart. The first of these was Uma, an elderly witch who was born on the same day as her future husband, although did not possess his supernatural longevity. Uma concocted a magical potion, causing her to appear young and beautiful in the eyes of others, thus earning the king's love. However, on the occasion of their first anniversary, the pair received a gift of an enchanted mirror, which as fate would have it reflected the witch's true appearance. Realizing the wife's depiction, King Endearment demanded an immediate separation, with Uma subsequently died from a broken heart, although not placing a curse upon her former husband, causing any woman he wedded to die. Although not before placing a curse upon her former husband, causing any woman he wedded to die within a year of marriage. Endearment's second bride, Ida, described as merry and high of spirits, is recounted to have died from hysterical laughter at the antics of the courtroom jester, who in his shame retired to become a recluse. His third wife, Tiona, died 4 months into their marriage, shortly after her brother Devlin fell ill with a dread violet fever. Devlin is identified as Tiona's favorite brother, for when she was a child and fallen into a river whilst playing, none but Devlin were bold enough to dive in and rescue her. After consoling her grieving parents, Tiona visited her bedridden brother without her family's knowledge and planted a single kiss on his forehead while he slept. Whilst Devlin would subsequently make a miraculous recovery, his sister was dead by morning. The king's fourth wife, Arian, is described as having possessed the sweetest voice in all the land, and while singing by a lake one morning was overheard by a hungry fox. Certain that such an enchanting melody could not possibly pass human lips, the fox, after witnessing the flutter of the Arian's white robes through the bushes, thought itself in the presence of the swan. The fox attacked, tearing deep into the queen's leg and leaving her fatally wounded. The beast, having realized its tragic mistake, then threw itself into the lake out of grief. Endearment's fifth queen was Sionatate, the daughter of a poet, who held his shortest reign of all brides. She is said to have died on the day of their wedding, falling from her horse after becoming distracted by the sight of a beautiful rainbow. Her successor, Aithna, was kidnapped 5 months into her reign by Granin, a hunchback who had grown infatuated with the young queen, and plotted to escape with her to Ireland. When her captor demanded she prepare his dinner, the wily queen took the black rose she wore in her hair and placed it in his broth. After completing his meal, the hunchback noticed a single stray black petal in his bowl, and realizing he had been tricked, strangled Aithna before succumbing to the flower's poison. Seizing Grenan's cloak and spear, Aithna headed for home on horseback. That night, Endearment, who had sent out his guards in search of Aithna, heard 3 knocks on the door. The ageless king demanded his visitor to identify themselves, although heard no response, and peering out the window saw only an armed stranger in all black. Endearment and his fury then struck the intruder with his sword. After having removed their hood, found the face of none other than his beloved Aithna, who had been unable to speak after being strangled. The ageless king's 7th and most documented spouse was Queen Kauma. Try as she and her husband might, they were unable to bear children, and against her husband's wishes, Kauma sought the assistance of a local witch. The wizened sorceress offered a solution, inquiring as to whether Kauma would prefer a son or a daughter. When the young queen voiced her desire for a baby girl, the old witch presented with her a silver steed, which she instructed her to plant in the royal garden. Silver seed, which she instructed her to plant in the royal garden on the night of the next full moon, before providing it with 3 drops of milk. The witch promised that if Kauma consumed just one of the flower's petals, she would become pregnant with that baby girl, although warned her under no circumstance to eat more than one of its petals. Weeks later, Queen Kalma did as advised and as predicted, a silver flower appeared early the next morning. After eating a single petal, the queen found the flower to be so delicious that she consumed all 12 at once. This lapse in judgment caused dire consequences for Kalma and her husband. In the following months, her belly grew so large as to leave her bedridden. Shortly thereafter, the queen gave birth to a total of 12 daughters all at once, all of whom were noted for their bright green eyes and hair as a result of their supernatural origin. Kalma died from exhaustion shortly afterwards. Having lost 7 lovers throughout the years, Endearment never married again, and remained fiercely protective of his dozen daughters, refusing to marry them off to any of the kingdom's noblemen. One fateful morning, King Endearment, who was now over 120 years old, although still physically a man in his 20s, went for his morning hunts, alone as he often did, his supernatural longevity causing him to have outlived his nearest friends. Upon his return, Endearment found his palace had been ransacked by a race of barbaric invaders. Described as hailing from a mysterious northern land where the sun does not rise, the stars cannot shine, and the moon is too frightened to show her face. This date is remembered in local literature as the Day of the Ravens, as it is said that every raven in the land perched atop Sliobmore that day, as a stark omen of the events to come. With his daughters captured, his finest soldiers dead, and his place hopelessly outnumbered, Endearment set out to a nearby temple, which he found that, like his palace, had been ransacked for its gold and precious jewels. Endearment prayed before the gods, begging them for the strength to defeat his kingdom's invaders. After seeing the king's plight, and having witnessed the cruelty of the island's attackers, the gods transferred a small spark of divine energy into the mortal's body. Immediately, Endearment underwent a monstrous transformation, growing 5 times larger and 10 times stronger. His mere glance capable of inducing fatal seizures in his foes, and his touch capable of melting the flesh from their bones. Endearment single-handedly slaughtered countless waves of warriors, and with his heightened vision spied the longship carrying his soon-to-be enslaved daughters. Endearment caused the ship to erupt into flames, killing all warriors on board, though not before turning his 12 daughters into swans, thus allowing them to fly to safety. While his domain was safe once more, the god's divine spark had taken its toll on the young king's health. The powers of a deity are not meant to reside within a mortal framework, and by the time the last longship had retreated from the island shore, King Endearment was at death's door. With his last ounce of supernatural strength, the king removed his cloak, which he threw to the skies, encircling his kingdom and permanently sealing from the rest of the world, thus protecting it from all future threats. As Endearment lay dying, his body so disfigured that even the ravens refused it, the king's vital fluids became blood blossoms. Every leap year, as the blood blossoms bloom, Endearment's 12 daughters, still in the form of swans, lift Brazil's great veil for a single day, allowing the light of the sun, moon, and stars to shine upon its subjects. Addendum 2. On 10/09/1910, during an archaeological dig due 6078's northmost province, an anomalous human corpse, since designated 6078B, was discovered buried in an unmarked grave beneath a small bed of 6078A. While estimated to be in excess of 800 years old, the body showed no signs of decomposition and displayed an estimated temperature of 65 to 70 degrees Celsius. The precise cause of death remains intermediate, although the body showed signs of 4th-degree burns and multiple cancerous growths were located on the face, limbs, and torso. Following this discovery, several members of His Majesty's Foundation for the Secure Containment of Paranormal, HMFSCP, attempted to remove 6078B for further study. Reportedly, this resulted in a spontaneous manifestation of roughly a dozen swans, who proceeded to attack all personnel present, causing 1 death and leaving several injured. Following this incident, no further attempts at excavating the remains of 6078B have taken place. Okay, well, as you've heard from this story, not all ketters are bad. Ketters, one of those two. This one's not really bad, it's just an island, people live on it. The swans, of course, attacked them because they were taking away their father's corpse. Well, I hope you all had a nice time listening. I hope you will be back for the next time I record a video. Bye-bye now.